and you had 50 white mice, and you turned them loose in there, and you had little toys from them. You'd have a wheel for them, they'd be running in that, and then a merry-go-round, they'd be running on that, and a teeter-board, and stuff just the mice would play on. And that was called the Mickey Mouse Circus.
Ward Hall's razor-sharp memories of the shows and rides on a 1948-style carnival never ceased to amaze. The Nebraska-born Sideshow owner and talker conjures up the cookhouse menu of yesteryear as easily as the roster of performers on his modern-day World of Wonder Sideshow. I would like for you to paint me a picture of, using Mom and Pa Freer, of the size and the types of rides that they had on that carnival.
Okay.
And what carnival life was on. That was your first carnival?
Yes, that was my first carnival experience. It was a typical small carnival. They had about 6 major rides, which probably, as I remember, was a Ferris wheel, merry-go-round, a loop plane, a tilt-a-whirl, a chair swing, and a kiddie ride. That would have been the ride arsenal.
A fire engine on the
yeah.
Top.
So that was the ride, and then but they had 6 shows. They had the equipment for a girl show, for an athletic wrestling boxing show, for a snake show, and for a Mickey Mouse circus, and one other thing, don't remember what it was, and the Sideshow. So it was 6 rides and 6 shows.
What was the Mickey Mouse circus?
You had all kinds of little, first of all, a table that had sides on it and a screen wire top, and you had 50 white mice, and you turned them loose in there, and you had little toys from them. You'd have a wheel for them, they'd be running in that, and then a merry-go-round, they'd be running on that, and a teeter-board, and stuff just the mice would play on. And that was called the Mickey Mouse Circus. Mr. Disney would not have approved of that, but we're using that title.
Who ran that show, do you recall?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Anybody happened to come along, okay. And some old man ran that. Yeah. And it was in about a 20 by 30 tent and a 3-banner front. Yeah. So was the girl show, so was the athletic show, so was the snake show, you know. And so the Sideshow was the big thing on the back end. That's why they wanted it.
Well, was the Sideshow, was the grill show pretty much the raw show that they had, or could they do that in Kansas?
There was, I don't think they were very raw anywhere at that time. This in the 40s, okay. And then they had the wrestlers in the athletic show, and they usually had 4 or 5 guys that were the wrestlers, and most of those guys came with a wife or a girlfriend, and the operator of the athletic show was also the guy would run the yacht show, and this was commonplace too in those days, and his wife would run the girl show. And so all of the wrestlers and guys' wives or girlfriends would be the talent in the girl show, and then the wrestling guys, in those days they probably got paid $30–35 a week. Now, I don't think more than that, and they had to pay their own. And at shows, I never saw any on a big railroad show at that time, but they all had them. But on the little shows, they were just bare skeleton things. A bare banner line with 3 banners and a string of lights. No bally cloth on the bottom of the banner line. They had a bally stage. Usually they would take a couple of, on those ghillie shows, they'd take a couple of seat crates off of the Ferris wheel and then put some boards across, and that was the bally. And they never even had steps on the yacht shows. The guys would jump up and off of it. And then they had the ring inside, the wrestling ring, but they never had the bally cloth around the ring. So you could see under the ring, and when you looked and saw what was under there, what it was a bunch of mattresses, and maybe a couple of water buckets and some clothes and towels strung around, because that was the living quarters for the single wrestlers and some of the other guys, the ride boys and so on. That's where they slept. And the girls' show, of course, they had a stage, and so they had a ballet cloth around that, and so the girls and their boys, they was sleeping under the girls' show stage.
Now, what was the sleeping quarters for you?
We had a trailer.
Yeah, you had a trailer.
Yeah.
But you'd had that on the Rogers. Right?
Yeah, we came with the trailer from the circus. And then when we got people, and well, the half and half and the other drag queen, they lived in the blow-off of the Sideshow. And when the show was going to open, they'd take all of their belongings and put under the stage, which had a ballet cloth around it. And then at night, they slept on the stage or whatever. And I think the ballet girl, as I remember, slept in the blade box.
Now, let me ask you this. Did Mom and Pop Flair turn out to be the kind-hearted souls that you thought they would be?
They were wonderful. They were wonderful. Just a real good country couple, and ran a good cookhouse. They baked their own, did their own baking, and made good meals every day, you know. And
what was the cookhouse?
Huh?
What was the cookhouse?
Well, it was the big frame, probably
It was a tent.
30 by 50 under canvas on a wooden frame, and the front of it would have the grill where they'd make the hot dogs and the hamburgers.
Okay.
And so on, and then the rest would be tables and chairs, and behind the grill then would be the steam table with the other food and the pies and so on.
And they baked on the road.
They baked every day. And
what were they using? Where was that?
oh, they had a kitchen wagon. They had a semi that was the kitchen wagon.
Okay. And what did you pay for the cookhouse?
Oh, at 48 with the first show, probably a full dinner with beverage and a dessert, 50 cents. And on the Collins show, 1961, 2, long in there was when I was there, and Leonard had the cookhouse. I would guess that you could get a full meal there then for probably $1.50, and if you wanted a steak, it might be $3. And that was pretty much through the industry.
Now, did the Freers have their children, or any have children with the show? How old were they at the time?
They had a daughter, and she had just got married to a guy that was the ride foreman, and a very nice guy, hard worker. And she ran the popcorn stand, of course. That was typical too. And like I said, they had like 1 or 2 men on each ride. And then for the teardown, the crew from the Atla show helped tear down the rides. And that was a typical small carnival at that time. About 6 rides and 6 shows.
Next, Ward Hall recalls the nebulous games of chance and the bawdy ballet of the girly shows on carnivals over a half-century ago.
Oh, the girl shows. On the medium-sized or smaller shows, I think the biggest show I ever had was 4 girls. And most of the time, we were in towns where you couldn't flash. But there was a way around that. And it was called a piece of equipment that you called the twiddle twicker.
Still trying to work around that tongue twister, I'm Lane Talbert, reporting from Peru, Indiana.